various threads have led me to be thinking about what it means to be a friend, specifically a spiritual friend. I'm talking at the level of like peer friendship, not teacher-student, but just a friend amongst peers as a spiritual practitioner. And there are many sutras emphasizing the importance of spiritual friendship. One sutra says that a good friendship nourishes ethical conduct. So it's the basis, particularly for monastics also, how we support each other to live in our precepts. And it's also the basis of why the Buddha set up a spiritual community where we live with like-minded friends so that we can reinforce our aspirations, be role models for each other, and encourage, support, inspire. And particularly following on from Pravarana, there was one quote from a sutra that caught my attention where it says that a spiritual friend has 7 qualities, and some of those qualities are they give advice to you and they accept advice from you. They speak about deep matters and they don't urge you to do what is negative. And so this is what we've just done with the Pravarana ceremony that we've done to end our 3-month Varsa retreat. So just rejoicing in how we are cultivating good spiritual friendship in that way. But also Master Benyen's class, some of us have been watching some of the Vinaya teachings from Master Benyen, teaching about the Bhikshuni precepts, and a lot of it is about how not to be a friend. And so I've been thinking about that, particularly one situation where he was describing about the precept that we have about not concealing another's serious offense. And the situation basically where a whole monastery could get itself into trouble based on a very human behavior about protecting our friend. And so the situation kind of goes like, Venerable A commits a defeat. She tells the Venerable B. Venerable B freaks out and goes, oh no, my friend has committed a defeat. I don't want to get her into trouble. I'm not going to say anything. 24 hours pass. Venerable B realizes that that's not actually how to help her friend, so she tells Venerable C. Venerable C freaks out and goes, oh my goodness, 2 of my friends have committed a defeat. I need to protect them. I can't tell anyone. 24 hours pass. Then Venerable C goes, oh, that's not how I help my friend. She tells Venerable D. Venerable D freaks out and goes, oh my goodness, 3 of my friends. And eventually, each of them committed a defeat by concealing another's offense, and the whole monastery is in trouble. This is not how to help our friends. But it got my attention of like, oh, what does it mean to actually be a friend to someone? How, when in this situation, as he describes it, Venerable B, C, and D, and so on, realize that that's concealing another's offense is not how to help them. It's because the person who committed the offense needs to purify. They need to recognize what they did was an offense, and they need to purify their karma so that it doesn't come back to bite them in the future. And so that it doesn't have a ripple effect on the rest of the Sangha. And so that's at the level of, the most serious level of transgression that we can have. But there are other situations as well where it may be a somewhat minor offense, but someone's doing something that is unhelpful for themselves or others. And because of our attachment to them or fear of their anger if we advise them, we don't say anything. We turn a blind eye, we conceal it. And that's not helpful. That's not actually the basis of friendship where we're wanting to lead each other forward in the practice of virtue and good qualities and the abandonment of negativities. And repeatedly when Master Benyo was describing this, he used a phrase that, oh, they're too close. That's how these transgressions occurred, and that these people are too close, and therefore they relate to each other in ways that they're concealing each other's offenses, or they get themselves into trouble by not acting in accord with the Dharma. And even at the level of where the Sangha has made a decision collectively to kind of restrain someone, they're acting in harmful ways, and the Sangha makes a decision, doing a Sangha karma of some kind, and this person will be disciplined in this way. But out of our attachment to that person, we either of our own accord, remove that proclamation from the Sangha with no authority to do so. Or we keep giving them the object that they're not meant to have. We associate them, we live with them, we accept teachings from them. And the way that it was described was like, how is that person going to learn? If we keep being chummy with them in the way, like, which is basically says, I'm on your side, I agree with you, what you're doing is fine. Whereas the Sangha collectively is trying to help that person by saying, you have some wrong views that you need to abandon or some behavior that you need to abandon, and this is how we're trying to help you. So yeah, it's just wow, to be so clear on how to abide by the Sangha's collective wisdom when they make a decision and not act out of our attachment to go against that collective wisdom because of our affinity for some person, wanting to try and protect them in an unwise way. But there was another situation as well that was described about how we could give advice that's against what the Buddha taught. And that really kind of got me to sit up straight in terms of that's really something that I never want to do, is to advise someone against what the Buddha taught. And then to realize that I probably in some way will, because I'm an afflicted sentient being. But in some situations, it's incredibly serious, where one thing that was discussed was about how, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if they have a lustful mind. You can accept objects from them as long as your mind is clear and not attracted to them. Very bad advice. And that's going against actually a precept that the Buddha taught. But there's other situations where, perhaps more likely in our situation, it's like, you're right to be angry. Well, how they've hurt you, they've harmed you in some way. You have a right to be angry about this. Very bad advice. So that might not be going against a precept as such, but it's against the principles of the Dharma, where we're trying to help each other in our spiritual friendship to abandon the afflictions. And then we have so many precepts about speech, about not lying, not creating division, not criticizing, not complaining, not gossiping, not reopening disputes that have been formally or properly closed or resolved by the Sangha. And I see how many messes I create daily with my speech, just largely speaking out of irritation. But more serious things can evolve when I'm not mindful of what I'm saying, who I'm saying it to, who I'm speaking about, what I'm saying about them. I think in the Shamaneri book it says that we have an axe in our mouth. It's like, yes, I see that, and I'd like to remove it eventually. And then on a lighter side, but perhaps, at one point during the teachings, Master Ben, you said, when you read the sutras, you may not laugh. But when you read the Vinaya, you could sometimes be in hysterics just reading about what these monastics did. It can be incredibly shocking. But in some way, it's like, oh, okay, they were human. and throughout this whole reflection, particularly reflecting on how the wisdom of the Buddha to set up these precepts to restrain us from these very human ways, afflicted ways of relating to each other. The superior, supreme psychologist that he was, to understand the crap that goes on inside and how to try and hold us back from that. But even small things like joking around with each other, where I think the striking each other with our fingers or toes, that precept's about tickling each other. And in the origin story, the person actually died. That the person was tickled to death. I think the exact, really, one of the 6 naughty bhikshus tickled one of the younger 17 bhikshus, and they became faint, unable to breathe, and subsequently died. So it's like, you never know what's going to come about from just messing around. And basically losing right mindfulness, where we're not really comporting ourselves in ways that's becoming of a monastic. And in some of the readings I've been looking at in terms of what friendship means, Bhikkhu Bodhi has this lovely way of phrasing it in terms of trying to uplift each other and bringing each other closer to the ideals of the Dharma. And I love how the way that the Abbey is being set up, that really structures and provides a container for that, because it's very clear right from the start, and it's communicated very clearly, which is so helpful. It's that we don't have any special friends. Right from the start of our training here, it's clearly said that we don't have special friends. And the ways that we have here to structure that, so we don't hang out in each other's bedrooms. If we we associate, we speak with each other in open spaces where others can join, unless it's a particularly private or sensitive kind of mentorship conversation, so that these friendships are private or intimate or exclusive, and that we don't have that one special person that we rely on for everything. We may have people that we speak to about particular topics because that person has particular wisdom in that area or their background. But it's not exclusive. We don't just go on a walk after lunch with that one person every day, but to try and cultivate that equanimity amongst each other. And what came to mind was, how that the Dalai Lama describes how whenever he meets anyone, it's like meeting an old friend. So how freeing that would be to have that kind of equanimity where everyone in the room is a friend. That's something I really aspire to. And so I thought just to end on reading a short sutra from the Buddha, an excerpt from one where he describes 4 types of good friends. And he's describing it in terms of how someone relates to you. But for me, it's like how I want to relate, how I'm taking the instruction of how I want to be relating to others. So he's speaking to a young man named Sigalaka. Young man, there are 4 kinds of kind-hearted friends. The friend who is helpful, the friend who shares one's happiness and suffering, the friend who points out what is good, and the friend who is sympathetic. In 4 cases, a helpful friend can be understood. They protect you when you are heedless. They look after your property when you are heedless. They are a refuge when you are frightened. And when some need arises, they give you twice the wealth required. In 4 cases, a friend who shares one's happiness and suffering can be understood. They reveal their secrets to you. They guard your secrets. They do not abandon you when you are in trouble, and they would even sacrifice their life for your sake. In 4 cases, a friend who points out what is good can be understood. They restrain you from misdeeds. They enjoin you with what is good. They inform you of what you have not heard, and they point out to you the path to heaven, or I guess the path to virtue. In 4 cases, a sympathetic friend can be understood. They do not rejoice in your misfortune. They rejoice in your good fortune. They stop those who speak dispraise of you, and they commend those who speak praise of you. So I've found it very helpful to reflect on what it means to be a friend, particularly a friend living together in a community. So hopefully in some way this has been helpful.